I'm calling this the surprise challenge. I'm interested in what you've experienced as a customer and or what you've done for your customers and coworkers as an entrepreneur, as a person in the customer service business. I'm thinking about Will Guidara's book, Unreasonable Hospitality, in which he relates a story about four individuals that stopped in his restaurant for lunch just before leaving for the airport. Now, he knew that because they had their luggage in hand. And he overheard them talking about their New York City experience. This was, at this point, they were in 11 Madison Park restaurant. And they said, we've been fortunate. We've experienced all kinds of great things. But one of them chimed in and said, but there's one thing we haven't experienced, and that's a New York hot dog from a vendor on the street. Will, overhearing this, said, and he went across the street to his favorite New York City hot dog vendor, and he had them cook up 4 hot dogs or serve up 4 hot dogs. Will bought them in the kitchen and asked the chef to put them on a plate and make them look pretty. And so Will bought them out to these customers. And not to my surprise, not to your surprise likely, and they were shocked. And as they left the restaurant, it was the only thing they could talk about. And as the story goes, all they did was talk about it as their greatest New York City experience. It blew them away. So I'm thinking about some of the things that have occurred in my life, some of the things that I've done for customers, and some of the things that have happened to me. One that comes to mind is after going to the dentist at about 10 o'clock in the morning, I was taking a shower and my wife tapped on the shower door and she said, "You have a telephone call from someone named Steve." And I said, "Steve?" I said, I don't really know anybody named Steve, don't know who that is. And I picked up the phone. It was Steve Reese, the dentist from Danbury, Connecticut. And he said, "Bob, how are you doing? We spent a lot of time in your mouth this morning. You were numbed up. How do you feel this evening?" And I was blown away. And yes, I told a lot of people about Steve Reese. Another one that comes to mind is a dry cleaning incident in Wichita, Kansas. In those days, we typically wore white shirts or business shirts, sometimes with ties, to work on a routine basis. So dry cleaning shirts was a thing. And I remember pulling up to the dry cleaners to pick up my shirts, and the door opened, and the owner came out. Older gentleman, not a big personality, quite frankly. And he said, "Here's your shirts." Opened the back door, hung them on the hook. And as he started to walk away, I said, "Wait a second, I'll come on in and pay you now." And he said, "No, not necessary. I'll get you the next time you come in." Wow. Do you think I told a ton of people about the dry cleaner? The third one that comes to mind was just last week when I went to the Infiniti dealership. Thought my car had some significant issues with the transmission, but it turned out that it was just some ignition challenges. Brakes needed to be changed, and they put a new piece of molding on the car. But the surprise occurred when I got home, and I noticed that the gas cap cover, which had been uneven and slightly ajar, was flat. So I popped it open, and I noticed that they had replaced the guts of the interior of it, put a new spring in, and then it worked perfectly. They hadn't charged me for it. In fact, they hadn't even told me about it. Another big impression. So I'd like to hear from you some of the surprises you've created for your customers and coworkers, and or some of the surprises that you've experienced. Let's collect some stories that we can share and that can plant the seeds of the things that we can do in our businesses. If you've enjoyed this, please like, share, comment, and I'll see you soon.